I grew up in the city of Leh, located near the delta of the Makam River. I went to a good school and graduated grade 10. Unfortunately, not everyone has the same opportunity. In Papua New Guinea, the average schooling is only 3 years. In 2007, as a young people sergeant major, I started doing street ministry. At first, no one would speak with me. But just like William Booth, I found that after I shared food and people ate, they would open up and share their lives with me. I spoke with many children who weren't attending school. They said they wanted to go, but they could not afford the school fees. Many came from broken homes, low-income families, and some were living on the streets. Once they have taken time off schooling, they fall too far behind and cannot return. I wanted to help the children return to school, so I wrote a proposal to THQ and we started the Leh Street School in 2010.
Seven.
Since then, we enroll 150 students each year. They have a chance to catch up on classes and pass exams, and then they are transferred to nearby schools. We work with parents to arrange a smooth transfer into mainstream schooling, encouraging them about the importance of saving for school fees. Many of our former students have gone on to be very successful.
I was raised by a single mother with 4 siblings. As a child, I loved to help my mother sell greens and vegetables at the market. When I was in 7th grade, we could not pay the fees, so I stopped attending school. I started attending the Leh Street School, and Stanley was my teacher. I liked to sit in the front row of class and quickly caught up. With the help of the school, I was able to pass my exams to go into the next grade at a local high school. They even arranged sponsorship for me through the Combined Church Partnership. After I graduated grade 12, I studied a diploma of nursing. Now, I work in oncology at the General Hospital. It is a blessing to help others. I'm always thankful to God for the opportunity the Salvation Army provided. I can now support my siblings' education and my mother.
I love teaching and helping students think about the life they want to achieve in their future. The students are invited to activities at the core, and I have seen their lives transform when they hear of Jesus' love for them. I hope that the school will continue to expand and be recognized by the government. I dream that one day all children in PNG will have a good education and know the love of Jesus Christ.
Leh Street School helps the children who live on the street in Leh and gives them an education that they wouldn't receive without this school. Not only do they learn basic reading and writing and maths, but by the time they reach grade 8, they're also doing other core subjects like science, social science, English and maths. And this, along with the food that they receive while they're at school, makes a huge difference to their everyday life. It also makes a big difference in the potential of their lives going forward. This program and programs like it are funded through the Self-Denial Mission Fund. As we approach self-denial this year, I would ask you to consider what you can give from your heart. Your sacrificial giving makes a huge difference to the lives of these children and many other people like them around the world. Thank you for what you give, and may God bless you.
The Bible reading this morning is from 2 Corinthians, and Paul writes, "And now, brothers, we want you to know about the grace that God has given the Macedonian churches. Out of the most severe trial, their overflowing joy and their extreme poverty welled up in rich generosity." And then from John chapter 14, "If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be given you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you obey my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have obeyed my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete."
Isn't it a pain when you turn up to a mate's place and he wants you to watch a video and it's Series 2, Episode 3? And you're struggling to get yourself into the theme of it all. Well, folks, here we are in week 3 of our self-denial mission appeal. And for those who perhaps are here for the first time in this series of 3, Salvation Army every year takes a period when we step aside from our normal teaching series and we look at the Salvation Army's international outreach. And we, at the end of that period, take an offering, which is called a self-denial offering, which the Salvation Army sends overseas to those working in mission. You know, young people of Hamilton City, what an amazing church you belong to. It really is. Because over the years, the young people from this core who have gone on overseas mission and others who have served overseas is simply amazing. And I'm going to offend someone because I won't capture you all, but this is the nature of Hamilton City Salvation Army. Brian and Valerie Smith, Martin Smith, Linnell Jellyman, Leanne Clifford, Andrew McDonald, right at the moment as a pilot with Mission Aviation Fellowship. And then we go on, Lindsay and Raywin Chisholm, Hayden and Adrian Rive, Don and Dorothy Oliver, Ross and Annette Gower, David and Myrtle Clark, Paul and Val Clifford, Alan and Moira Tong, Margaret Green, Moira Wright, Ron Hildreth and the Solomons that we acknowledged recently. So many of you have felt God's call upon your heart and life, and you've stepped out, and there is a cost to leaving home and family, many before the times of mobile phones and Skype and all the other modern ways of communicating, and you've gone out in mission. And Stuart Stanbridge and the entire Hamilton Salvation Army Band ministering in Tonga. God bless you. And those outreach work programs that have gone out to Tonga and to Fiji. Over the years, this core has prayed for them, written to them, sent newsletters, and we continue to give support. Just last week, we had our bucket run, and the kids run around and take up the coins. But those coins in Tonga, in the food bank, make a real difference. You continue to do it. And Wendy Coonbridge, God bless you. I'm going to say, how many thousands of dollars have been raised by Hamilton Home League from their mission sales table? And if you go into the social hall now, you'll see the Home League mission support on the wall. Thousands of dollars over the years from our Home League. And each year, Hamilton has excelled in our self-denial appeal. Do you know, it's quite amazing that in 2020, before COVID came and other challenges, we raised $68,000 from this congregation. 68,000. God bless you, folks. Unfortunately, with COVID coming, we've stepped back from that. But that's an amazing figure. You know, can I just for a moment talk a little bit of reality? When we were overseas, we became aware that many Salvation Army officers have no guaranteed allowance. Sure, there's a Salvation Army pay scale, but if you don't have any money in Indonesia or Malaysia or Kuching, you can't pay it. And so we became aware that some of the officers in our territory were even suffering from malnutrition. The other issue that we're just starting to grapple with in New Zealand is this issue of inflation. If you're working in a country where the inflation is going up by 20% and the giving from the home country is exactly the same, your income is actually down by 20%. So to give the same means that often they give less. And so I guess in a sense we're saying, hey, can we actually make 68,000? Could we crack 70,000 so that they could just survive? Thank you, Christine, for scripture reading this morning. When self-denial comes round, we look to see if there's some encouragement that we can get from the Word of God. And we find that numerous times Paul's letter is talking about this collection that was taken up for the faithful in Jerusalem. Now, I don't want to get sidetracked into this historical setting. It's too detailed for a Sunday morning. Perhaps Hayden or Ross or David or Deirdre and Raywin can deal with that in a Bible study. But the fact was that in AD 45, there was a severe crop failure in Egypt. And that spread north into Judea. And so around AD 46, 47, there was a famine in that part of the world. And in addition to the persecution that was happening to Christians, now there was no bread, there was no grain supplies, and the Jerusalem church was in trouble. You know, I was thinking about that and I just thought, hold that thought, Wilfred. Where's the grain supplies in the world today? Ukraine. And if, as we are choosing to do, using food supplies as a weapon of war, and we are bombing silos and food-grade storages, we've got a lot to pray about. Africa is going to have food shortages that they've not known. And so Jerusalem has a food issue. What's our modern phrase that we use? Food insecurity. No, it was more than insecurity. The people were starving. And so in the normal course of events, the Jewish system would have been that their almsgiving would have helped the poor. But we know in the fledgling Christian church there's an issue. Paul had been back to Jerusalem. He'd had a major confrontation with the leaders. And in the growing Christian church, there were non-Jewish or Gentile believers. They weren't part of the Jewish supply system. So what to do? So Paul makes an appeal to the Greek church. The church, as Christine read, in Macedonia. Will you help your Gentile brothers in Jerusalem? And so it's these verses that we've been hearing. Paul writes to the church in Corinth in central Greece, praising the church in Macedonia in northern Greece, and he says, in the midst of this severe trial, their extreme poverty welled up in what? In rich generosity. And you know, I captured that and I said, that's Hamilton. That's Hamilton. Hamilton City. You can receive that pat on the back. It's as if the commissioner was writing about the self-denial appeal and he's talking to the South Island and he said, those people from Midland, those people from Waikato, those people in Hamilton City, in the midst of their trials, they welled up with $68,000. Wow. Seriously, folks. You deserve that pat on the back. And we know it's not easy. Our farming members at the moment know all about inflation, about servicing debt, about fuel costs, transportation costs, fertiliser costs, changing legislation. Farming's not easy. And for a town dweller to the supermarket, do you know, I've never had so many conversations with random women in a supermarket standing in the egg section of the supermarket, looking at the prices, and women looking at their calculator, I'm serious, and their shopping list, and just shaking their heads. Not only are the prices exorbitant, there's no eggs on the shelf. Is it too far-fetched to use the Bible words? We're trying to get self-denial funds in a time of severe trial, and can I use the words for some people, poverty. But Hamilton, let's read the whole passage. We want you to know about the grace that God has given to the Hamilton Corps, for in the midst of a very severe trial, their overflowing joy welled up in rich generosity. Overflowing joy? Do you know, the story is told that the Salvation Army invited the Archbishop of Canterbury to a large congress in London. The Archbishop of Canterbury got up at the Congress and he said, you know, there's something about the Salvation Army. I have never seen a gloomy Salvationist. The commissioner sitting behind him said, well, he hasn't been to my corps. Surely, overflowing joy. Isn't this stretching it? Come on, Paul. You know, so do I. You come to church on Sunday and you look at them and said, man, if they're happy, can they let their face know? And I'm reminded of a colleague, Salvation Army officer, who every time we walked on the platform, she would turn to her husband, Bill, and she'd say, Bill, put your platform face on. You see, is joy simply putting on a mask? Is joy always having a Cheshire cat smile? And again, Sunday morning is not the time for me to get into the whole exploration of the Christian and well-being. What about the Christian and mental health? What about the Christian and depression? What about the Christian and postpartum issues? What about the Christian and the multiplicity of personality theories? What person, usually a mum, finds joy in pooey nappies, endless washing baskets, ironing, and the obvious question of what's for dinner? But you see, the joy that Paul talks about is attainable. Thank you. Thank you for a testimony. The joy that Paul talks about is attainable and is being experienced by so many. For Paul explains his concept of joy by saying, I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstance. I know what it is to be in need. I know what it is to have plenty, but I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. Whether I'm well fed or hungry, whether I'm living in plenty or what. Biblical joy is choosing to respond to external circumstances with an inner contentment and a satisfaction. It's a deep inner warmth and gladness, regardless of the circumstance that surrounds you. But you know, being content is not a natural place to be, especially for the young. I mean, so you're trying to find out who you are. Does anyone love me? Nobody responded to my TikTok. Nobody's come back to my WhatsApp. I want to make my place in the world. When you're young, being content is a real challenge. It's also a challenge when you're a parent. The seamless, endless demands of children, relationships, career, making a living, sometimes even keeping up with a coffee group. And then we enter those delightful years, and I've got a gold card to prove it. Is our lot contentment? Or am I simply just a grumpy bum? You see, I remember one day this verse sort of hitting me like a sledgehammer. Margaret and I were serving in Singapore. It's on the equator. It's 33 degrees all day, every day. It's 80 or 90% humidity. The little quarters that we had on the end of the rest home had breeze blocks. Do you know what breeze blocks are? They're not completely solid. And it allows the breeze in, but it also allows the other critters in as well. Let me step apart. Is there a place for the tambourine in the Salvation Army? Absolutely yes. We were in this little quarters, and one day through the breeze block came a considerably sized black rat. We tried to get it out. We chased it to the kitchen. We chased it into the little bathroom. It ran up the cupboards, it ran up the wall. We couldn't get it anything. And then finally our daughter, Davina, grabs her tambourine and rattles it. And the rat left. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. But let me get back to my story. A visiting Salvationist from a first world country came and they said to me, Wilfred, they don't expect you to live like this, do they? And I suddenly thought, no, I was quite content. Nobody's expecting me to live like this. If you choose to come on overseas service, if you choose to live with them, then this is it. This is it. Being there for others. You see, if joy is contentment in any circumstance, and if joy is a fruit of the Spirit, this means that it's a character trait of God. And God wants us to develop that character trait. When we're joyful, it shows that we're filled with His Spirit. And we've chosen to live according to God's will rather than our own will and our own choices. And this generosity and this accompanying joy is part of the life of holiness. It doesn't come naturally. I mean, say, for goodness sake, ask any parent or early childhood worker. It's about 2 years of age, the child enters the "it's mine" stage. Here's the rabbit, it's mine. Here's the bear, it's mine. Here's the dog, it's mine. Will you share with Bobby? No. And as the child begins to learn self-differentiation, as the child learns that it's not its mother, that the child learns that it's an individual, the concept of possession comes. And my egocentric world wants to hang on to everything in the playpen. It's mine. Hopefully good social development sees that child move through the stage. But how tragic it is when we see teenagers and adults with a 2-year-old mindset who define their whole psychological world by what's mine. I'm only me because I've got it. and what I own. But you know, for most, the joy of sharing and unconditional giving takes over. And I say unconditional because there are volumes of social science research on what is being called the gift relationship. There's a world of difference between grandparents on Christmas morning watching their grandchildren unwrap their gifts and the gift that I give the project manager, which is little short of a bribe. Unconditional giving is from the heart. And this is how Paul explains his transformation. He says, I can do all of this. I can be content. I can be joyful. How? I can do it through him. Through him who gives me strength. Through who? Through Jesus. And so I want to move to a conclusion. The concept of giving is for me a little bit like photography. As I've travelled, I love photography and I love capturing, but I find that sometimes the things I want to focus on are too far away. So I've had to buy a longer lens. It's what people in photography call the depth of field, so you can actually focus on that issue. And it reminded me a little of when you've got kids and you're starting off by explaining, here's your pocket money. And if you spend it all now, as soon as you get it, you won't have any left for special things. So how much do you want to save? How much do you want to put towards your mobile phone? How much do you want to put towards the entertainment? How much do you want? And then you get to the point and you say to your child, where's God's bit? Hey, let's start again. The first 10% we put aside, and you take that to Sunday school, or you take it to the bucket run, or that's God's bit, the first 10%. Now let's have a look at the rest. And the inevitable response is like the 2-year-old. That's not fair, Dad. That's not fair. Give me a break. But slowly the principle is established in the child. And so in using the photo illustration, the first photo of lens is we give because we have to. It's grudge giving. It's like paying taxes. And grudge giving usually evokes that response that it really is mine. I don't want to let it go. But then we move to the next lens of duty giving. It comes from a sense, well, here we go, it's self-denial again. It comes around every year. I'll just put in what I put in last year. It's a duty, it's a habit, it's an obligation, it's because we should give, or it's because we ought to give. And there's little warmth or joy expressed in duty giving. But the third lens is that which Paul encourages us to experience. It's called thanksgiving, and it comes from a thankful heart. Giving because we are blessed, and we recognize a need, and we really do care. And this kind of giving is grounded in love, and it really does bring joy. And that's why this year we have the banner, A Gift from the Heart. You see, the value of the gift is not in the dollars you can put in the gift, but it's often what it means and who it came from. And that's why it's referred as from the heart. You know that because you come to the certain stage in life when people say you should downsize. Isn't it a wonderful experience? And so the kids come to help. And the kids go into the... Don't mention the garage, Margaret. The kids come to help. And they go to the box and they pick it up and they say, yep, chuck it. And you go, no, don't chuck it. Why? They're absolutely right. It has no intrinsic value. It's not worth anything. It's tattered around the edges. It's frayed. It's coloured. But for me, it transports me down memory lane. It has sentimental value. I can't let it go. And you see, when I was in Malaysia and we were looking at projects and the self-denial funds came. It wasn't just that I had money that I could do some projects with, but I stopped and thought, someone cared for me. Someone actually thought about me. Not me probably personally, but someone thought about the appeal. And they got down on their knees and they prayed about it, and they gave a gift of thanksgiving. And you knew you weren't on your own. Others had thought about you. They'd prayed. And I want to adapt it. Can I do that for Hamilton Core this morning? Because I believe this is where it's at. Brothers and sisters, we want you to know about the grace of God has given to this Hamilton Core over many years. And by His grace, in the midst of all the trials we have in the supermarket, on the farm, wherever we are blessed with overflowing joy, because even in our present situation, it has welled up with rich generosity. May God bless each and every one of us in our self-denial journey.